we know we want to use UV, but we know it's not durable enough. And we were kind of like, whoa, time out. Thank God these guys tracked us down.
G'day there. You might remember a while back now I made a video about water. Well, this video is a follow-up video to that one. Firstly, I would like to thank everyone that sent us information and ideas after I asked for suggestions on water filtration units in that previous video. Of all the information we received, there was one unit that stood out above all the rest. The Guzzle H2O Stealth water filter and UV sterilization system. So in this video, we're going to cover the entire install from the unboxing. We are going to chat with the founders of Guzzle H2O, Tyler and Doogie. Before we get started, I will throw a massive thank you to Tyler and Doogie for sending us this unit in rapid time, all the way from Oregon in the States to Taiwan. Introducing Mr. Tyler and Mr. Doogie from Guzzle H2O.
The company is started about 3 years ago now. My day job is a professional sailor. We sail, all over the world, and the amount of water bottles we were going through is just phenomenal. I wrote a bit of a rant on Facebook and said, this is ridiculous. We should, the world needs to do better, sailing needs to do better. And then Tyler was like, well, why aren't we the ones that provide a solution for this? And so we got together and started making some systems, kind of one-off custom-based systems for various teams. And that kind of provided funding for us to kind of keep developing the product. So we started the sailing, and then, after sailing, we quickly branched off into overland and RV and camping and all that is kind of the next logical step.
I got a bit of a background in developing products. Like I've worked for some unmanned aircraft companies here in the gorge, and done some, other businesses where we're, coming up with new product. We got active lifestyles, and so we realized pretty fast that it was going to be really useful for systems that you could take out into the field and, use them in a lot of different ways to support, fun outdoor activities. Basically, we got two lines of products. One is made to be built into something with a water system like a camper and that's basically the Stealth line. We've got 3 or 4 different versions of the Stealth depending on how much water you want to treat and how much filtration you want to have. You can see some of them here behind me. We've got this little zone set up to show people our gear. A portable system called the Stream has got everything you need. It's got the pump and the battery. You can just take this down to a lake, put it next to the lake, and it will pump water up and fill up the tanks. You support the family with drinking water for the whole weekend, and it's super easy.
We want to make our system easier to use than going to the grocery store and buying water, and that's kind of been the premise of our design philosophy. It needs to be bulletproof, it needs to work, and it needs to be simple. The hoses are color coded. The orange part goes to the orange connection, and there's one button, and that one button does everything. We really put the effort forth that it needs to be, user-friendly.
So the filter that we will be installing today has a carbon block cartridge type filter before the UV sterilization unit. Can you guys tell us a little bit about this carbon block filter and what it does?
The carbon is a great sort of all-purpose filtration medium, and it's a 0.5 micron carbon block filter, physically stopping any dirt particles from coming through to the UV. And then the carbon is also really good at just grabbing and attaching to chemical contaminants that are in the water, make your water more healthy. And then it also is really good at dealing with the taste and flavor and smell qualities of the water. So part of the philosophy is, with replacing bottled water is that you got to make it taste good. You can't just make sure it won't make you sick because there still can be chemicals in it. Carbon is just a great all-purpose filtration medium.
Can you please give us a bit of an idea on what sort of flow rates we'll expect to see with this system?
How long does it take to fill a water bottle? And the average water bottle, if it's going to take you a minute, that's too long. The 20-second area is kind of an acceptable time. And so that's kind of the flow rate that we've been able to hit. Is it takes about more or less 20 seconds with our systems, the Stream and the Stealth. If it takes you 20 seconds to 40 seconds to fill a liter or more, then that's, I think that's acceptable.
All right, let's talk ultraviolet sterilization. Could you guys please give us a little bit of a rundown on exactly how this UV component operates?
The UV unit is is the white bulb that you see is, after the filter. It is third-party tested to US EPA standards to inactivate 99.99% of bacteria, protozoa, and viruses. Recently was NSF 55 listed as well for a similar level of effectiveness. It is dealing with the whole range of things that are going to make you sick. The key part is that it does viruses, because a lot of this, they're the smallest microbiological hazard, and they're the toughest for filtration systems to remove. Like, a lot of times you will end up doing the filtration process and then adding chemicals to deal with the virus component. The UV is nice because it just takes care of all of it in one shot.
So let's talk about the power usage of this unit. I know that on standby mode, this unit draws about 0.1 amps, which is absolutely minute. But what about when the UV is on?
It's like 1.5 amps, yeah.
That's nothing, absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
And because of the flow switch, it's only turning on when you're requiring it, so it's not always on.
When you open your water faucet, that releases the pressure and lets the water start moving down the line, and your pump comes on, and at the same instant, the Stealth senses that and switches the internal UV component on. There's like a blue status light when that comes on.
If you don't mind, guys, I want to talk about the carbon block filter again. What sort of lifespan can we expect to see from one cartridge?
They're rated for a maximum of 1,000 gallons. That is removing like chlorine, so that means you're probably using like water from a municipal supply, and you're just removing chlorine and sort of polishing the water. Basically, the more sediment that runs through the system, the shorter lifespan you're going to have with your carbon filters. And then the other thing to know is you want to change them every 6 months or so. So you'll know you want to change your filter when basically your water pressure starts dropping, because the filter has collected enough sediment that it's impacting the water flow.
Thanks for that, guys. So what about the availability of these filter cartridges as we travel the world?
It's a standard size carbon block filter. We have a favorite supplier that we buy from that's in, a little bit south of us here in the States, but you can go to, the hardware store around the world and find a 5-inch cartridge that's going to fit the system. So, the point of these systems is for people to travel and, get out in the world. And so we didn't want to have wanted something they could find anywhere.
So as you guys know, my concerns on the installation of a UV system in our rig was whether or not they would be able to stand up to the rough vibrations on a corrugated trail. Now I need you guys to put my mind at ease on this subject. Please give us a rundown on what makes this LED UV system unique.
Yeah, well, no, that's all absolutely correct. That the old bulbs they're really fragile for, especially if you're going to put it in a truck that you're going to, take off road.
They're fragile, they're power hungry, and they require, because they're basically always on, you got to replace them, regularly. And
we discovered the LED UV technology. We were pretty early on that. The UV component is rated for 10,000 hours, and that is like actual time where it's on treating water. So it's basically maintenance free. Like an LED light bar on your truck is an exact parallel, but it's similar technology where it lasts a long time, and it's not a maintenance item. You're not going to be changing those bulbs or anything like that. The white bulb is super rugged plastic outer case. Then there's a plastic core to it that's just like solid plastic that helps circulate the water. So inside it's there's a PCB board that is just encased, in a waterproof material. So it's rugged because it's very lightweight, and it's just all packed on a thick circuit board. There's a video out there of it being dropped from like 35 feet, and it comes down and it bounces. And then they bring it back into the lab and they fire it up, and it's working just fine. So,
thank you very much. Well, I'm about halfway through the install at the moment, so I better get back to it.
Okay, right on.
Alright guys,
well, good to meet you guys.
Yeah, you guys also, and we want to thank you once again for your time today. And that is when the camera battery decided to run out. We said our goodbyes to our new mates Doogie and Tyler and headed back to the workshop to get this thing installed. When I receive a new product, the first thing I take note of is the way in which it's packaged. The Guzzle Stealth was extremely well boxed up to ensure the product arrived in good condition. The carbon block filters are quite compact, so I ordered an extra 3, so we're good for a couple of years. The instruction manual was simple and easy to follow. I already knew the dimensions of the Stealth unit, but when I pulled it out of the box, I was super excited to see that it was even smaller than what I could have imagined. Before I get stuck into any new installation, I like to lay the products and all of the parts down on the ground and visualize how I'm going to do the job. The upstream and downstream connections are 3/8 tubing push connect. The kit comes with various size fittings. This allows you to choose from a couple of different hose sizes. A couple of hose clamps, a mounting bracket, and a long electrical cable are provided. The electrical connection to the ultraviolet light itself is very simple. I emptied the cupboard and came up with a bit of a plan in my head as to how I was going to do the job. If it helps, it's always a good idea to draw the job out on paper. Before you start drilling any holes, it's always a good idea to dry fit the equipment to make sure it's going to fit in the space allocated. The battery terminal ends of the cable are clearly marked, so even an electrical dummy like myself can't stuff it up. The wiring to the battery itself is quite simple. I ran the positive from the positive side of my C-Tech unit, installed the recommended inline 2 amp fuse. I ran the negative to the common bus bar. Before you start any plumbing job, ensure the pump is switched off. Might even be a good idea to remove the fuse and bleed the pressure out of the lines. I added an additional T-piece to the system as we chose to have the shower running straight from the tank and not through the water filter. We try to always put relatively safe water into our main tank anyway from the source, and by running the filter to the shower, it would have significantly decreased the lifespan. In order to utilize our small space as best as I could, I made the decision to separate the cartridge unit from the ultraviolet unit. This allowed me to get the cartridge unit all the way up and fix it to the underside of the kitchen countertop. I wanted to keep the unit as high as possible, and I also didn't want to drill into the side body of the camper itself. I went down the local hardware store, found some 3/8 tubing, and went directly to the fittings themselves. Don't forget to remove the plastic from the cartridge filter before you install it. When the job's complete and I'm happy, I will first open the kitchen sink outlet. I'll then turn on the pump, let all of the air be blown out of the system. When I've got a good stream of water, I'll close the outlet. I then hold my breath and pray for no leaks. That's it guys, I really hope you've enjoyed today's video. This entire process was definitely a learning experience for me and one that I thoroughly enjoyed. With any luck, some of you guys have managed to take something away from this video as well. It's an excellent feeling knowing that we now have great tasting, safe to drink water coming straight from our outlet. In finishing up, another huge thank you to Tyler and Doogie over at Guzzle H2O. If you are in the process of building your own camper or a boat, don't hesitate to reach out to the guys. They're super helpful and very responsive. Thanks heaps everyone, and we will see you next week.